Hi, this is Jenny Langley, author of the new Maudsley Training Manual. In this video, we're looking at exercise 4.4.3, which is about reflective listening, so the R of OARS. Now, obviously in our busy, chaotic lives, everyone is guilty of not really listening and paying attention to all the sort of chaos and noise around us. But when there's an eating disorder in the house, carers can become very sensitive because they might say, well, every time I try and repeat something back, or every time I try and make out that I'm listening, my loved one just gets really super sensitive and interprets things in a really negative way. And obviously this is because the person with eating disorder's confidence is really rock bottom, and they might have a really distorted view of what the carer actually means because their self-esteem is so low. So where interest is intended by the carer, the loved one might hear criticism. Where loving concern is intended, they might feel that you're just intruding on their privacy, or you're being an over kangaroo-like carer. So reflective listening can really help to boost the self-esteem of the sufferer, and it really shows that you're paying attention and you really want to understand, and you really want to come alongside them and help them on their recovery journey. So there's lots of different types of listening. So as we go through this, let's think about when your loved one says you're not listening and you don't understand. So it's quite a common thing, isn't it, that teenagers say, but also for people with eating disorders, that you're not listening, you don't understand. So a simple reflection would just be a direct restatement of that. So you think I'm not listening, but it can come across as a bit sarcastic. So you need to be very careful of the tone of voice when you're just repeating that back. You might rephrase the words slightly. So you might say, you think I'm not listening and I don't understand. Help me to listen more better and understand, what does good listening look like. You might paraphrase, so thinking about what emotions are going on there. So for example, when I don't listen or understand, I can see it makes you feel sad, angry, frustrated. I would feel like that too if I thought somebody wasn't listening to me. So you can go into the technique that we call attend, label, validate, soothe, looking at the emotions, which is in one of the later videos. Then there's complex reflections. So again, reflecting emotions is really good. Developing discrepancy is a really good complex reflection. So on the one hand, this is happening, and on the other hand, this seems to be conflicting with that. So on the one hand, you don't want me to interfere because you want to be independent, and on the other hand, you get frustrated when you feel I'm not listening or understanding. So you're creating that little bit of discomfort, and remember that change comes about through discomfort, as we discussed with Aesop's fable of the sun and the wind in one of the earlier videos. Rolling with resistance, and again is a complex reflection. I can see you're not ready to talk about this right now. Let me give you some space, or let's engage in some sort of distracting activity. So remembering less is more, that there's share in the non-eating disorder part of life can be really good at diffusing some of that high emotion that comes with the eating disorder, and just simply a hug maybe. Empathy is a complex reflection. So I can see that this is really difficult for you. I can see that you're really facing up to some difficult challenges now. I appreciate how hard this is. And again, lots of empathy, and then support and distractions with non-eating disorder related talk. So in the workshops, we do a couple of exercises. So the first one is we put carers into pairs, and they have to talk to each other about what they're doing for the weekend. And the carer that's listening has to show that they're really not interested. And so basically the carer who's speaking will say at the end, well, that was really insulting. I feel like I'm not worthy. I feel like I'm unimportant. It was horrible. And then we replay the conversation in which the carer then actively shows that they are listening, maybe using lots of reflections. And then the carer who's been talking will say, yeah, I feel she's really interested in what I have to say. It really feels like a much more caring response. Then we look at all the different roadblocks that there might be to actually being able to listen properly. So sometimes we can very quickly rush into disagree, which would be quite rhino-like, wouldn't it? Arguing with logic. Or we might be very quick to agree, which is almost like, well, you haven't really heard what I'm saying, you're just agreeing to shut me up. Being distracted is obviously really common in our busy lives. So it might be being distracted by cooking dinner, or being distracted by the technology, or someone coming to the door, or something like that. Making too many suggestions. So remember, with motivational interviewing, we try not to give too much advice. So saying, I think you should do something, kind of shuts down the conversation. And also, don't you think that conveys the same sort of I'm the expert and I can tell you what to do. Too much talking by the listener. So ideally the listener should be talking less than 50% of the time, and ideally even less than that. Remember, on the guidelines for OARS, we say for every one open question, you're going to try and give back 3 affirmations or reflections. So it's a much better balance of conversation. Now, of course, you might just be met with lots of grunts, but that's okay. You're conveying that you really want to hear what they have to say. Rehearsing too much. This is a tricky one, isn't it? Because you've just learnt a new language of OARS, and then we're saying you need to practice it, but then try not to come across that you've already rehearsed what you want to say before the conversation has begun. So that's why it's so important that when you come to the workshops, or you're thinking about what phrases you might use, you write them in language that you would use, because some of the language that we might use in the manual, for example, might just not be naturally how you speak. And siblings often say this, that they just wouldn't quite use the language that is in the skills-based learning book and the training manual. Reassuring can become a trap, that that they're saying, have I eaten enough? Have I done enough? Are there too many calories in this? And the quick fix is obviously just to reassure, and then they calm down for a bit, but then they come back very quickly. So we'll look at that in one of the later videos. Judgment. Nobody likes to be judged, and so we're aiming for non-judgmental listening at all times. Feeling upset. So, as a carer, you can sometimes feel really upset by what you're seeing or what you're witnessing or what your loved one is saying to you, and just trying to convey that you really care without becoming so over-emotional that it makes the loved one feel worse. So the jellyfish obviously has a real sting in its tail if you get too upset. If you are getting really upset, then consider who in my support network, could I talk to help to ease some of my emotional intensity, so that I'm not always breaking down in front of my loved one. Okay, body language is really important. So think about tone, volume of your voice, the gesture, the eye contact, the personal space, all that sort of thing. Then thinking about bringing out green shoots. So trying to add in positive comments, genuine positive comments when you detect the smallest openings. So you might say, thank you for remembering to pick up the shopping. Thank you for remembering Granny's birthday. Thank you for remembering to pick up the post, something like that. Or it's noticeable that you have made the effort to do X, Y, or Z. Or I really appreciate it when you maybe help your little brother with his homework, so something like that. So that can show that you've really noticed what's been going on for the sufferer, without always focusing on the fact that the eating disorder is a very negative thing. Okay, avoid saying how is the illness affecting the whole family. They know how the illness is affecting the whole family, so you just want to be very careful about that. And then think up some useful phrases that you can really use all the time, like broken records almost, to convey that you really want to listen. So it sounds to me like, or so you're saying that, or from your point of view, this is what's going on. Let me check I've understood, and your feelings. So any reflecting on your feeling sad, anxious, frustrated, angry, etc., is useful reflection. And we always talk about Columbo. Columbo would always go, and one more thing, and take sort of one down position to just check out that he's got enough information that he needs to make the next step. So can I check I've got this right? So thinking about that Columbo approach can be really, really helpful. There's a book that I always recommend in schools, but it's really, really relevant for anybody who wants to improve their listening skills. And it's called Essential Listening Skills for Busy School Staff, but really essential listening skills for any busy person, by this wonderful counsellor called Nick Luxmore. Okay, so we ask the carers, how do you know if someone's not listening? And they'll say, well, body language, they interrupt, etc. And what does it feel like if somebody isn't listening? So we're getting the carers to put themselves in their loved one's shoes when the loved one is saying, you're not listening, you don't understand. And carers will say, you feel unheard, you feel unworthy, misunderstood. It affirms your low self-esteem. It makes you sad, angry, lost, confused, upset. So we can really help carers to feel more empathy. Then we say to the carers, are there some people that you avoid talking to, and what attributes what is it about them that makes you not want to talk to them? And carers will very quickly reel off a whole list of things. They don't listen to me, they tell me what to do, they tell me it's obvious what the right answer is, you know, can't you just feed her? They're insensitive, they're always trying to fix everything, they just don't understand. They always say the wrong things, they make me feel guilty, they make me feel bad, they make me so angry, they make me want to cry, they make me feel worse than before I spoke to them. So then we ask, well, do you think your loved one ever feels any of these things? And of course, that's quite a eureka moment, isn't it? Like, yes, of course they do. And does your loved one ever say any of these things? Like, you're making me feel so bad because of the way you reacted. So what we're trying to do is help carers to have a better understanding of why the sufferer sometimes, you know, really flares up with high emotion, and what carers can do to try to keep things calm by using really good non-judgmental reflective listening. Okay, so good listening skills can help in all sorts of ways. So you can gather important information that you might not otherwise have. It improves your relationship. Good communication obviously improves relationship. It helps build trust between the carer and the loved one. It shows you really want to understand their perspective, and that you're interested in their opinions and their thoughts. The sufferer is more likely to become more open and honest if they feel that you're really, really coming alongside them. Okay, so this image conveys that reflective listening can really help the loved one to feel cared for and understood. And this is a quote from a teacher. So I was delivering a 2-day mental health first aid course, and so we introduced reflective listening skills on the first day. And she said, I tried the techniques we learnt yesterday on my 13-year-old daughter. She didn't even notice the difference, but then we had the best conversation we've ever had. She doesn't have any mental health issues, but you know what teenage girls can be like, all this grunting and telling me I don't understand. I'll be using this all the time now. So these are really, really useful skills just in any family setting. So I hope you've found this video useful. All of the worksheets and the videos can be found at www.newmaudsleycarers-kent.co.uk. Thank you.